Hey everyone, so happy to see you today. We are going to have a very special video today. I will be talking about my favorite items and synergies from Cyclo Chambers. So this game is a game that I've played. I haven't played for a little bit of time, but it's because I went through the whole game, unlocked every single item, got all of the achievements, so there's not much else for me to do. But I wanted to come back to it and make a video for you all to show my favorite items and item synergies. I wasn't able to just pin it down to favorite items just because this game does have items that are very similar to each other, but they're upgraded versions of each other or slightly different versions of each other. So I've decided to make this video favorite, top 5 favorite items or item synergies. So I hope that's okay with you. You might see some similarities between some of the items that I'm showing or some of the top 5 tips here. You might see multiple items included within the same tip type of thing, but I think you'll get the idea here. We're going to go through my favorite items and item synergies together, and hopefully this helps you with this game if you're having some trouble, or if you're just interested to see my opinion on the best synergies in the game. And I hope that you stick around and learn something new here. Now, before we jump into the top 5 items and item synergies, what I'm going to show you is just a honorable mentions kind of thing, or just basically my top essential items that I didn't include in the list because they're not super interesting items. They are just essential items for any playthrough for you to become very strong or overpowered at the end if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to go through my honorable mentions, essential items type of thing before we jump into the list. So here we go. So let's jump into the honorable mentions. So like I said, these are going to be the essential items that you want, and what I'm going to start with is attack damage items. So I'm looking at the item collection here. I'm just going to show you some of the items that I'm talking about. So dry bones here, +4 damage. It also gives you some HP. Prehistoric egg, plus damage there. Ox horn and yak horn. All of these are items that increase your damage, and I would even group in the critical hit power items as well, which increase your damage from your critical hits. So these are essential items. They don't really add any effects to your shots or anything like that other than increasing the damage, of course. So that's why I'm including it in this section of the video. Of course, these are very important to pick up because that's going to drive your damage up and up. So you definitely need these power items or these damage increase items, but I didn't want to include them in the top 5 list because they're not that interesting. They're just essential items. The next thing that I will mention is also fire rate, which appears over here. So fire rate is included in a couple of different items. The main items are the pills, so pills fever and pills hallucination, increasing your fire rate. It also is included in some of these other items like God's workout, crosshair, those type of items as well. So of course, if you are able to get fire rate, your damage output is going to increase with your fire rate increasing as well. So that's another essential item that you want to pick up from the shop or your reward screen, just because again, it's an essential item that will help you send out your attacks and increase your damage that way. The other 2 that I'll mention is projectile increase. So a good example of this is the hacksaw and the double-bladed hacksaw. So this increases the number of projectiles that you shoot per shot, and again, it's just an essential item because it will allow you to shoot more, do more damage. You have more projectiles out there, and every projectile will take on the effects of your other perks that you pick up. So as you get more projectile effects, you have more projectiles to do those effects, so you're just doing more damage or you're covering more area with the more projectiles here. And the last thing that I'll mention is also increasing the number of weapons that you have. Now this is done through the extra holsters here. So there's 2 items. There's the extra holster, which will give you 1 weapon, extra weapon I should say, and then the double holster will give you +2 weapons. Now the difference between projectiles and weapons here is that when you pick up a weapon, you start to shoot in a different direction alongside your normal forward direction. So if I have 2 weapons, I'm going to shoot in front of me and behind me. And then if I have 3 weapons, I shoot in kind of like a triangle pattern. And if I have 4, I shoot up, down, left, and right, and so on and so forth. So your weapons will shoot as many projectiles as you have gathered as well. So both of these are really important to pick up, projectiles and weapons. They are different, but they are both really, really, really important. So with that, that is my honorable mentions or essentials type of list. So let's jump into our first top 5 item and item synergy here. All right, now coming in at number 5, this is actually going to be a group of items that I'm going to suggest as the number 5 tip here. And that's because it's a group of items that do similar things, or it has the main benefits. They share the same type of main benefits, but they have slight iterations or slight variations of an additional benefit to it. And what I'll say is, when I discovered what these cards actually do, the full effects of them, I immediately knew I need to pick up these items every single time I see them. These items will save your butt in situations, and it will help you get super, super overpowered if you find the right ones for your character. So let's take a look at it. And so the number 5 tip here is going to be picking up any of the hope cards that you may find. These cards are the white cards, and they have different effects to them whenever you find one. So there are 5 variations. Let's take a look at them together here. So the first one is the touch of hope. There's also the smell of hope, taste of hope, sound of hope, and the vision of hope. So it's just all of these white cards here. Now, one thing that you don't see from this card is a hidden effect. And what you'll notice is that these cards will give you a very, very big perk if you're able to keep your HP above a certain amount. The hidden effect of these cards is that if you pick up one of these hope cards, it actually heals you all the way to 100% when you pick it up. So you immediately get to take advantage of the perks of the double damage here for that card. This one will increase your fire rate if you are above that HP. This one will increase your move speed. That's probably the worst one. The sound of hope gives you +2 projectiles, and the vision of hope gives you +2 weapons. So it's really, really giving you a huge advantage if you are able to play well and keep your HP above that certain threshold. Now, one thing that I'll mention about these cards is really it's best if you pick up one of each if you can. When you start picking up multiple of them, it just decreases the requirement for the HP. So it goes from like requiring 85 HP to maybe like 75, 65, and it goes down that way. So it doesn't have a huge amount of benefit to pick up multiple of the same. If you see these cards, try to pick up different versions of the card if you can, but if you do see multiple of them pop up and you have no other choices that you really want to pick up, go ahead and pick up multiple. But I would say if you can pick up one of each, that would really kind of maximize the effectiveness of these cards. But they are super, super effective, and just remember they do give you a full heal when you pick that up. So that is why it's coming in as number 5 here. Really, really important for your tool belt for a good run. They will save your butt if you're low HP, and they will also give you a awesome effect. All right, that brings us to number 4 here. Now, this item combination is one that you should use if you have trouble keeping your HP at a good level, or maybe you just want to keep your HP very, very high because you have a lot of those hope cards that we were just looking at. And so if you are in that situation, then you should use this combination here, and that will be the coin flip plus the gambling addiction combination here. So I'm going to show you these 2 items. So the coin flip is an item that allows you to re-roll and have 50% chance to not lose a re-roll when you re-roll in the shop. So this is really great because re-rolls are kind of rare. Some characters have an easier time finding them, but either way, when you have your re-rolls, this item will allow you to keep 50% of your rerolls even though you are rerolling. And the other item that we're looking at is the Gambling Addiction. Now, Gambling Addiction will give you 3 HP as a heal every time you re-roll an item. So whether that be re-rolling an item choice or re-rolling in the shop. So you can probably already tell how we're going to abuse this Gambling Addiction item alongside with Coin Flip, because this will allow you to keep re-rolls, and as you re-roll, even if it's a free re-roll, you're healing HP every single time. So let's see this in action here. Here's an example of a run where I was getting hit a lot and I'm, below 50% HP. I'm struggling a bit. And then once I jump into the shop here, I know that I can re-roll to just heal HP. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And as you can see, every once in a while here, what was happening was my coin flip was for free, because you see that little coin flipping out of my re-roll indication there. Yeah, it just happened right there. I'll show you it again. It indicates that it's free if you see that little copper coin flip out of the re-roll little tab there. So I'm getting free re-rolls. I just wanted to be at full HP, so I went ahead and just re-rolled as much as I can here, and I'm healing all the way to full, and then I'm ready for the next round there. And if I have any hope cards, they start activating again. So this is a item combination that I really used a lot. Once you find that coin flip item and the Gambling Addiction item, I usually pick them up right away just in case anything happens during the run. So I really do suggest picking this up, both of these items, if you do see them in the shop there. All right, now that brings us to number 3 on the list. And this particular item, I have found that it was the item that made a lot of my runs. I actually had to stop myself from picking this up because I was picking up so much that all of my runs started kind of looking the same, but it's definitely a super powerful item. I think there's some characters in this game that I wouldn't have been able to complete without this item, and that item is the Tacky Adhesive item. This is an item that I really suggest, especially on the bone character who doesn't have a lot of range, because it can keep their projectiles on the screen. Let's take a look at the item itself here. So Tacky Adhesive, it grants projectiles a sticky effect that makes them stick to the ground before disappearing. So like I said, with that character where he swings his bone, he doesn't have a lot of range. That particular character, I found that I was only able to really win easily if I were to use Tacky Adhesive, where he would swing his bone, his projectile would stick on the ground, and then it would essentially become a trap for enemies to walk into and get damaged by that sticky projectile that we put on the ground. Let's see it in action here as well. So this is a good example, because what will happen with Tacky Adhesive is it also works with all of your other special projectiles that you are shooting from any of the other perks and items that you have picked up. So as you can see here, I have different special projectiles that just stay on the ground, and they're quite large, and those projectiles just end up being little traps for these enemies to walk into and get defeated that way. So with this particular item, you can stay really safe, because what you can do is just shoot all of your projectiles, and then enemies are walking into it. You have a lot of areas where they become really safe to walk into or kind of circle around, because all the enemies that walk towards that area are dying before you get there, because your projectiles have stayed there and they have cleared out any enemies as they walk into your projectiles. So super effective item. I think that this is a game-winning item if you find it. So I would suggest, if you're having trouble with some of your runs, try the Tacky Adhesive. It's really awesome. All right, now that brings us to number 2 in the list, and this one is unlocked a little bit later in the game, so you might not have this available yet if you haven't gotten too far. But if you have this item, it is one of the easiest ways to break the game wide open and have a super overpowered run. And this particular item is called the sprinkler. So the sprinkler is really special because this item acts as if it's a projectile, but it's a projectile that shoots projectiles. So it gets all of the effects from your projectile effects from your items that you have in your list, and then it also shoots projectiles using those projectile effects as well. Kind of hard to explain, but I'll show you an example for sure. One thing that I really like using with this is any kind of splitting effects as well. Let's take a look at some of the items in the collection that I'm talking about. So this is the item that I'm talking about, the sprinkler over here. Every 3 seconds you shoot a cluster bomb that bursts into 12 projectiles, and again, those projectiles that it's shooting will have the effects of every other item that you have picked up, but the sprinkler itself counts as a projectile, so you will have that sprinkler acting as a projectile with any effects that you've picked up as well. And like I said before, anything like a split, so meiosis 1 or 2, so this is an item that splits your projectiles in two after they have kind of gone out and done their thing. So with the sprinkler, with this particular item, what will happen is the sprinkler will activate and then it will split and activate again. So let's take a look at that happening right here. So in this run, I picked up the sprinkler and I already had the split in my inventory. And what you'll see is that the sprinkler, the big red thing that will come out right there, what will happen is it does all of its projectiles, it shoots 12 projectiles, and then it splits up and then does the effect again. So that one item really can break open the game and make you super powerful. Even if you don't have that splitting effect like I did, any other effects that you have with your projectiles will be applied to that sprinkler, and then that sprinkler will shoot projectiles that do that effect, and then it will keep on going, and it really starts a chain of damage where you're just defeating anything within the range of that sprinkler, and it really makes you powerful and keeps you safe. So if you find this item, I would say pick it up no matter what situation you're in, because it will probably do you a lot of good. Alright, now we are going to take a look at my top favorite item synergy in the game, and this is one that I actually discovered really late into my Cyclo Chambers experience. So many playthroughs had been completed, and then I finally discovered this synergy, and I was kind of mad that I found out about it so late because it makes the game really fun. You get super overpowered. My most overpowered runs were thanks to this item combination, and this item combination is the full belly or blossom combination with these 10 shooters. Now I'm going to explain this because I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but I'm going to show you the items that work in this combination because there's actually quite a few that you can use to achieve the same effect. So let's take a look. So the first ingredient that you will need is Blossom, Blooming Blossom, or Full Belly. So Blossom and Blooming Blossom are basically the same item, but one is an upgraded version. So Blossom grants you 7% chance to shoot 4 bullets when enemies are destroyed. Blooming Blossom does the same thing, but it shoots 8 bullets instead. And then Full Belly is a little bit different. It shoots a bullet at the nearest enemy every time an enemy is destroyed. So Full Belly is by far the best item out of the 3 to achieve what we're looking for, but it is also unlocked later in the game. So if you're earlier game, look for Blossom or Blooming Blossom, and then if you're later game and you've unlocked it, look out for Full Belly. I would say pick up all 3 of them, whether you have the other or not. They can synergize with each other, so pick them up whenever you see them, any 3 of these. And then the 10 shooters that I'm mentioning are these things right here. So you see these items with the icon where it has like a gray border and it has a 10 above it. So these items are shot every 10th projectile that you fire. So normally what will happen is that you need to shoot 10 normal shots out of whatever weapon that you have, and then you get to shoot one of these projectiles after your 10th shot has been shot, type of thing. But with Blossom, Blooming Blossom, and Full Belly, whenever these effects from those items are triggered, it counts as a projectile, towards these 10 shooters. So basically what happens is once you start defeating a lot of enemies, you start a chain reaction where Blossom Blossom, Blooming Blossom, or Full Belly is triggering, and then these 10 shooters start shooting a lot faster, and then you start killing enemies faster, and so you keep triggering the Blooming Blossom or the Full Belly more, and then it's just a chain reaction of like more and more projectiles accumulating, and you keep shooting things at a really, really fast pace. So I'm going to show you an example of this happening. So this is an example where I had a run, and as you can see, I'm just shooting my normal weapon here, and it is not so special, right? I'm shooting some of my special projectiles every once in a while, those bigger shots that are growing as a big circle. So I'm just showing you this to prove that I have some of those 10 shooter items, and I'm not doing too many of those shots just yet. But then with this next reward screen, I pick up the Full Belly right here, and you're going to see a huge increase in the amount of those special shots that I start shooting. So once the enemies start dying, as you can see, it's shooting way more of those special projectiles. It's shooting them at a really, really high pace. So I'm doing way more damage because those special projectiles are getting shot out more often. And I'm going to show you a clip from later on in the game just to show you how crazy things can get. Look at how many projectiles I start shooting out. So at this point in the game, I have even more special projectiles from those 10 shooters, and I'm killing more enemies because there's more of them in the later stages of the game. So things can get really, really crazy, and this is how I look like at the end of the game. As you can see, I'm just totally untouchable by the end of the game because of those items and that combination of the Full Belly plus those 10 shooters. So yeah, it's really, really awesome if you can pick up those items because you'll become super, super overpowered by the end of it. Alright everybody, that is my top 5 list for my favorite items and item synergies. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Do you think I missed something here? Is there something that you found in the game that I didn't include in this list? Please let me know. I would love to know your thoughts on that. It was really, really hard for me to reduce the list down to top 5 because there are a lot of crazy, wacky, and cool combinations that you can do in this game. And I really hope that they actually add more content in the future with an update of some sort with new items or new characters, new maps, whatever it may be. Right now, they haven't updated the game in a long time, but I really hope they do because I want to jump back into this game if I can. But right now, there's just no new content, so I've stopped playing it because there's not a whole lot of replayability once you unlock everything and you beat the game on the hardest difficulty with every single character. So if you want to see me play more roguelike games or roguelike games, arena survival, horde survival games, I do play a lot of these type of games on my channel, so I will leave a playlist down at the bottom for other games that I have played. Leave a like if you like what you see in here, subscribe to see more from me, but for now, thanks for joining in. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!